What if the story everyone is talking about right now isn't actually the full truth? Because at this moment, a situation involving Martell and Melody is spreading rapidly across social media, pulling in thousands of reactions, opinions, and heated debates. But here's where it gets interesting. Both of them have stepped forward, and both are saying that parts of what's being shared are simply not accurate. And that raises a bigger question that most people aren't asking. How did this situation escalate so quickly? And why are so many people already convinced they know exactly what's going on? It all began with a blog post that started gaining traction online. At first, it seemed like just another update in a story people have been following for years. But then the language of the post shifted into something much more serious. It mentioned child support issues, hinted at possible legal action, and even suggested there could be a restraining order involved. The moment those kinds of words appear, everything changes. These are not casual topics that people scroll past. They immediately trigger emotional reactions. People feel concern, anger, frustration, and sometimes even a sense of urgency to respond. And before long, opinions start forming, often before the details are confirmed. As the post continued to spread, it painted a very specific picture, especially when it came to Melody. It described her as someone who has completely moved on, built her own success, and no longer relies on anything connected to Martell. For many viewers, that version of her story felt believable. Over time, Melody has publicly shown growth. She has focused on her businesses, strengthened her personal brand, and positioned herself as independent and forward-moving. A lot of people admire that journey. They see her as someone who went through a difficult chapter and turned it into something powerful. So when that version of her story appeared in the post, it aligned with what many people already believed. But then the situation took a sharper turn. The claims didn't stop at independence or personal growth. The post went further, suggesting that Martell had been harassing Melody over a long period of time. It implied that legal steps had already been taken and connected these accusations directly to their co-parenting situation. And that's the moment when things truly escalated. Because once those kinds of claims enter the conversation, the internet does what it always does. It reacts instantly and intensely. People begin choosing sides, discussions multiply across platforms, and the story grows larger with every share, comment, and reaction. It stops being just a post and becomes a full-blown narrative. But then something shifted again. Instead of staying silent or waiting for things to settle, Martell responded directly, not through a formal interview or a carefully crafted statement, but in the comment section where the conversation was already happening. His words were clear and direct. He pushed back against the claims and stated that there is no child support issue like what is being suggested. He also emphasized something that stood out to many people. He described himself as a present father who supports his children. And just like that, the conversation changed direction once again. Because now it was no longer just one version of events being discussed. It became a back-and-forth situation where people started comparing statements, analyzing tone, and trying to figure out what the truth might be. And this is where things get complicated. The idea of being a present father can mean very different things depending on who you ask. For some people, it means being physically there, spending time consistently, and showing up for important moments. For others, it goes beyond that and includes emotional support, stability, and active involvement in a child's daily life. The challenge is that from the outside looking in, people only see fragments of reality. They don't see the full picture, yet they often form complete judgments. Over the years, audiences have watched the relationship between Martell and Melody evolve in a very public way. What started as a marriage eventually became a separation that played out on television, and from there it transitioned into a co-parenting dynamic that still carries visible tension. Because their story has been shared so openly, many viewers feel deeply connected to it. They feel like they've seen everything, even though in reality, they've only seen selected moments. That sense of connection is powerful. It makes people more likely to react quickly, to share their opinions, and to engage in discussions without always pausing to verify the information first. And that's exactly what happened in this case. The blog post gained attention rapidly, even though there was no confirmed proof for some of its most serious claims. Despite that, the story continued to spread, fueled by emotion, curiosity, and the involvement of familiar names. But then Melody also responded. She didn't ignore the situation or allow the narrative to continue unchecked. Instead, she addressed it directly and made it clear that there were inaccuracies in what was being shared. She acknowledged her supporters, but also reminded people of something that often gets overlooked. Not everything online is true. She encouraged her audience to seek verified information and to think carefully before accepting claims as fact.
This response highlights a much larger issue that goes beyond just this situation. In today's digital world, information travels incredibly fast. A single post can reach thousands, sometimes millions of people within minutes, but speed does not equal accuracy. Many blogs and social media pages are designed to capture attention. They use dramatic language and strong headlines because they know it will generate clicks and reactions. Words like harassment, restraining order, and legal battle are powerful. They immediately draw people in. But without solid proof, they can also create confusion that is difficult to undo. And once that confusion takes hold, correcting it becomes a challenge. Even if accurate information comes out later, the first impression often stays with people. It shapes how they see the situation moving forward. Looking at what is currently known, there is no confirmed documentation showing that a new restraining order has been filed, and there is no clear evidence that child support arrangements have recently changed. That doesn't mean there is no tension between Martell and Melody. Their history shows that there is. But it does mean that the specific claims being widely shared have not been verified. This is where critical thinking becomes essential. People tend to believe information that aligns with their existing views. If someone already supports Melody, they may be more likely to accept negative claims about Martell without questioning them deeply. On the other hand, if someone supports Martell, they may be more skeptical of those same claims. This is how online narratives form, through a mix of emotion, bias, and incomplete information. Another layer to this situation is how public figures choose to respond. When responses are made quickly and emotionally, especially in public comment sections, they can sometimes add to the confusion rather than resolve it. Tone can be misinterpreted, context can be lost, and different people may read the same statement in completely different ways. Some experts suggest that clear official statements are often more effective because they reduce the chances of misunderstanding. But in real-time situations, people react, and those reactions can keep the conversation going instead of bringing it to a close. Over time, situations like this can have a lasting impact on reputation. When someone's name is repeatedly connected to negative stories, even if those stories are unproven, it can shape public perception. For Melody, her image has become strongly associated with growth, independence, and resilience. She has built businesses, created opportunities, and shown a version of herself that many people find inspiring. For Martell, the public journey has been more complex. He has faced criticism, but he has also made efforts to show progress, continuing his work and emphasizing his role as a father. The co-parenting dynamic between them is another area where opinions run strong. From what is publicly known, Melody has primary physical custody, while Martell remains involved in the children's lives. Arrangements like this are not unusual, but they can be challenging for any family. Adjusting to new routines, managing communication, and balancing responsibilities all require effort. When those challenges play out in the public eye, they become even more complicated as outside opinions add pressure to an already sensitive situation. In the end, this situation is still unfolding. New details may emerge, perspectives may shift, and further responses could change how the story is understood. But for now, the most important takeaway is this: not everything that spreads quickly online is accurate. Staying informed is important, but so is staying thoughtful. Taking the time to look at verified information, listening to multiple perspectives, and avoiding quick conclusions can make a significant difference in how situations like this are perceived. And that brings us back to the question that started all of this, because in moments like this, the loudest narrative isn't always the most reliable one.